We now move to looking at local government and community engagement in local government with our next presenter, Heather Niven. Heather currently works for Science City York, providing development guidance, innovation, advice and support to companies and individuals in Yorkshire and further afield. Before this, she ran the Creative York Business Network, providing guidance and networking opportunities to creative and digital businesses in the region. She's also worked at the Chemical Industry Education Centre at the University of York and managed the Scylla Vethi Fine Art Gallery in Aberdeenshire. Heather will today be talking about the GenIUS York project. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, everyone. I made it from deepest North Yorkshire this morning, so I'm really pleased to have been invited down, and I'm really pleased that I actually made it in one piece. It's a bit freezing over there this morning. My name's Heather Niven, as said. I wanted to spend a bit of time today talking to you about GenIUS York. And this is a partnership project which was born out of actually the Nesta Creative Council's programme. We put an application into Nesta, and out of 137 applications, 17 local authorities were shortlisted to look at transformational change in cities and to try and really to have quite a radical approach to how you sort of shake up service delivery in local authorities. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So basically, the kind of driver behind our idea is the fact that there are massive public sector cuts kind of announced about a year and a half ago. There's much more demanding citizens out there now with a much bigger voice because of social networks. There's new technologies becoming available much more increasingly to enable solutions and to try and find solutions to some of these bigger, more wicked citywide problems. So basically what we were trying to do is create a way for people who are in the city to work together, to provide a space for them to co-develop solutions, to have conversations. We've got quite a high knowledge capital in York. We've got 2 universities and 2 colleges there. We have a lot of clever people up there, and we weren't really using them to help us solve any problems. The council's quite big. It's about 2,500 people work for the local authority in the city. But we've also got a resident base of about 800,000 people in the city. And the kind of general premise over GenIUS York was that 800,000 brains are better than 2,000. So we basically set up an online platform based on Ning technology, which is either free or very cheap to use. It's social media based. You can create your own page, stick your own videos up, have your own blog site, but we've also got forum and discussion space in there. And basically, we wanted to bring all these different people together to look at some of these challenges. So on the top right's the GenIUS platform. It's a bit clunky. We threw it together in 3 days. It cost us 500 quid. Myself and Simon from the council basically just sort of pulled something together very quickly. We just wanted something that worked. In hindsight, we should have probably designed it a bit better. But we basically started with a launch and learn kind of philosophy, which was just get it out there and let's start using it. And then as we go, we'll sort of tweak it and make sure that it works better. So the first 4 challenges we decided to put on our platform, we weren't quite sure how to start finding challenges to start at the beginning. So we had a bit of a chat around the council and said, right, we wanted to involve lots of different departments in the council because we didn't want an idea that there was an innovation department or there was a kind of fiefdom that was going to take control of that. We wanted it to happen right across the board. So we decided we'd come up with 4 different challenges in very different areas of the council. So the first one was around hidden assets. The council owned £60 billion worth of assets. That includes everything from bits of tarmac and parks to buildings, film kit, all sorts of things. And we wanted to see how we could use it better in the community. The second was around smart assisted living. Telecare exists. It's very expensive in some cases. It's quite complicated as well. What we were trying to do was add a layer on top of that, try and provide other solutions that complemented telecare, and to help extend a longer period of independence in your home. but also trying to look at solutions that weren't going to cost the earth, so for skint pensioners, you know, so people that could actually access new technologies without having to spend thousands of pounds on it. Procurement was an interesting one, how we engage small creative businesses, new businesses, anyone in the community that's got innovative ideas, new technologies they want to try and positively come to the council with. At the moment, you can't procure what you don't know. So we were looking at ways of reducing their workload through things like, for example, asking people to pitch on YouTube rather than fill in a 50,000-page document, register your details in a central place, and then you've got a registration number so you don't have to fill it in every time that you try and apply for a procurement or apply for a tender. And also things like using smartphones to do site visits so you don't have to go out 14 times with 14 different companies and take them around a building. Green living was an interesting one. We have 800,000 people in York, but we have about 8 million tourists every year, so that's about 16 million feet going through the city. And we were thinking, how can we harness the energy of the tourists, which will hopefully reduce the cost for the residents and then help that relationship. So some of the things we started to explore were things like electricity generating paving stones and various other things, which we're still on with. We're still sort of developing ideas around that. PaveGen was a company we approached, but at the moment their paving stones are quite expensive and not a massive return. So we're waiting on phase 2, Mark 2 coming out next year, and we're going to look to see if we can install them permanently in the city. So we launched them really quickly. It was a bit crazy, actually. The council are used to working fairly slow to stop pace, and we launched 4 challenges in 4 weeks. We had them out open for 3 weeks each. So at one point we had 3 challenges going at the same time, which was a little bit chaotic, to say the least, but got everyone ramped up and ready to go. Challenge 5 was our latest challenge, which we ran this time in partnership with the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. And it's all around how do we make the city more dementia friendly. It's slightly more structured than the first 4. We actually had a prize amount of money of 10,000. The council put 5 and Joseph Rowntree put 5 to it. And it was a bit more structured than the previous ones. We left the challenge on the platform for 6 weeks this time. We did some workshops during the open call with people with dementia and their carers in the room, and allowed people that had come up with the initial ideas to start getting a bit of feedback from them, from people who would actually work in that and live in that environment, to, you know, just to try and help them refine what they were trying to do. But with all of these challenges, the sort of core idea is exactly what Vicky was talking about in challenge prizes. The sort of main premise is we don't know the answer, but we think someone in the city might. And genuinely, that commitment to saying, you know, we don't actually know the best solution here, and we're asking the community to take ownership of some of these problems and help us, work with us to co-develop the solutions. So GenIUS is a bit of a Trojan horse, really. We were quite different in our Creative Council's approach initially, because most people came with a problem and then kind of worked around that and refined the problem. We actually turned up with a process. We thought, right, we want to do open innovation because we think it's ace. And in the Creative Council's programme was really excellent in terms of helping us to dissect what we thought we were going to do and then re-put it together again. It seemed like a bit of a white elephant in the room. You know, everyone thought, great concept, but exactly how are you going to sort of convey this to people? How are you going to change a culture in the city? Because that was the kind of reasoning behind it, was to create a council which was much more fleet of foot and much more responsive and behaving much more like a creative company rather than a big incumbent company. So Nesta was great in terms of saying, right, well, you need something on top of that process. You need some actual specific problems that folk can get their heads around what you're trying to achieve, and something that they can actually practically do. So that was quite a useful bit of feedback for us. So basically, the overall aim is to change the culture from service delivery to outcome facilitation. The reasons why is because we feel very strongly that there is a need for a different and possibly better model for how we run things in the future up in York. So the idea is to sort of move from the idea of the big incumbent tanker to more of a flotilla of interconnected, networked organisations or individuals who are communicating very well across the board, but are actually responding in a much more kind of proactive way. rather than the kind of issues you've got with this big complex tanker, which is the City Council. And so having this idea where you're operating with support from City of York Council rather than them running the services allows for sort of a lot more autonomy for organisations. It empowers the city, and it also creates a network of other people that help steer the whole thing in the right direction. So that's kind of the plan. So far, we've been really honoured and lucky in terms of some of the stuff that's come out of this programme. And again, back to echoing what Vicky said, when you're doing something this new and quite radical and quite brave in a city, especially at times like now where, you know, some of the criticisms are you're shutting care homes and you're investing money in innovation and we don't quite get why you're doing that. It is really important to get the credibility and the kudos from external people who are seen as experts, are seen as understanding the futurology of where the city's going to be in 20 years' time, and actually being able to come back and say you're actually on the right track here. So we've been really lucky over the last 6 months with that. We won social engagement, a social innovation prize with Living Labs Global, which was a fantastic accolade to win, and we've been invited over to Cape Town now to try and change our platform slightly to involve SMS technology to text message technology as well, because in Cape Town only 0.5% of people have actually got access to PCs or to the internet, whereas everyone's got, I think the average is about 1.5 phones per person. So we'd like to adapt our programme a little bit more to help our African friends to engage with their business community and their academics. Creative Council's phase 1 was, as I say, brilliantly supportive and helped enormously in terms of that initial credibility, getting it by cabinet in the council, etc. And then we were delighted last week to find out that we'd won the Community Engagement and Overall Winners Award for the Guardian Public Services. And again, that's about community engagement and trying this new way of working. And again, fantastic kudos to help us up the road to sort of keep the politicians on side and minimise criticism at this early stage. We're also shortlisted for the Local Government Chronicle Awards and the Local Government Yorkshire and Humber Awards, which happen in the next few months. And again, it's about trying to engage other councils, other local authorities, to share what we've learned, both the good bits and the bad bits, and to try and scale this kind of way of thinking and working with other people. So that's been great. Also, there's a lot of secondary stuff going on in the city it was kind of catalysed by GenIUS in the first place, but it's kind of created a bit of momentum in the city, which is fantastic. We now have it as a priority in York. The council have committed £2.4 million this year and next year over the 2-year period, specifically to seed fund innovation in the city. So new projects, things like procurement, being able to pitch new ideas, being able to pilot on a small scale. We've created an innovation catalyst programme where Science City York will be working with the council over the next 2 years to look at workforce development, conferences, a hackathon. So I need to speak to Carl later about that. You know, so there's a lot of different activities we'd like to do. So again, if any of you guys want to come to York and doing some innovation stuff with us, we'd love to have you along. And same back, if you want to hear about anything about what we're doing, happy to come and visit. We're growing the GenIUS community more. We're trying to work with partners more, and also we're going to head over to Cape Town early in the new year to try and scale it up somewhere in a different culture and a different environment. Okay, that was all the good bits. Now we get into the nitty-gritty of some of the stuff that didn't work quite as well. I'll just clear my throat for that bit. Okay, so the launch and learn approach has its advantages and disadvantages. We have learned an awful lot, let's just say. You know, we threw it out there very quickly. We spent about 3 weeks preparing the challenge, and then we chucked it on a platform and we had it open for 3 weeks. When I spoke to Philip Colligan from Nesta, they spent 18 months getting their challenge sort of lined up before they put it on the platform, and it's up there for a lot longer. And we very much feel we need to find somewhere in between 3 weeks and 18 months. We need to do more preparation before our challenges. With Challenge 1, we found out halfway through the challenge that somebody else was actually doing something in that area that we didn't know about, to kind of scupper things a little bit for us. So, as I say, Launch and Learn, it works well because if you have 50,000 committee meetings before you start, you know, you'll never get anything off the ground and it won't be innovative anymore. But if you go too fast, it just becomes complete chaos, and you know, you kind of lose people along the way. So we've got to try and get that time frame a bit better, a bit right. A lot of the solutions we looked at would not have actually been traditionally procured, because you can't procure what you don't know. We did learn that you can minimise risks through small-scale piloting. You can scale it if it's successful, if it demonstrates impact or what you wanted to achieve, or if it demonstrates something you'd never even thought of, which is positive, then that's great. You can scale that up. If not, you can learn a lot from what went wrong by it's kind of smart failing. You're spending a very small amount of money, between 5 and 10 grand really is what we've been spending on our pilots. So if it fails, you've got 5 grand's worth of learning out of it, and you know the next time what to do better. So that worked quite well. A lot of new insights were gained from the outset. Having those outsider views, and again, back to what Vicky was saying, people who you would not naturally engage with coming to you proactively on the platform, you can actually get quite a nice insight about the problems and the challenges you face. It's quite a nice way of co-developing from the beginning to the end of a process, rather than the council internally trying to work something out, getting 90% of the way along the line and then asking everyone in the community what they think, and the community coming back saying we think it's a rubbish idea. By doing it this way, you're changing the direction as you go. You're using the community to help inform the process all the way along, and that helps with that sense of ownership and shared problem solving, which is really important, especially for things that are a bit riskier. Okay, the other thing we learned, a mixed group of people with complementary skill sets and experiences works best. Don't get the same kind of folk into the same room, because if you have the same folk and you ask the same questions, you're going to get the same answers. Bring different people in, make sure they complement each other. Make sure you've got some idea generators and also people that will finish the job off. I'm really good at coming up with ideas. I'm really, really bad at finishing off the job. So you need that group of people together to make it work. Gathering ideas is the easy bit. Putting the process around developing and running the pilot and beyond is a lot harder. Why? Citywide problems are going across to all different departments in the council and external agencies and different people. So you're trying to get buy-in from all of those people at the same time is pretty difficult. And also the existing culture is set up more for sort of fiefdoms rather than for collaboration. So again, you're having to sort of chip away at that quite a lot. And again, this is where just being really positive and having some sort of external credibility helps a lot. Politicians can get involved, especially with our challenge around green energy. And this can actually exacerbate this culture of blame, especially if new ideas are deemed risky. Innovation successes can often be longer term. You'll get, I think the standard phrase is 9 out of 10 innovations fail. So, you know, you've got to manage expectations when you start. We've not had that many fail so far, but it is a kind of slow burn sometimes. And also a lot of the secondary stuff's happening in the background. So politicians can use it as a bit of a political football if it's at the early embryonic stages. So again, getting these quick wins, getting the gonks and stuff like that, these things all help to sort of move the process forward until you start to get some deeper, sort of much more beneficial impact coming through. Buy-in from the top is absolutely crucial. I mean, we're really fortunate that we've actually got a really excellent leader and chief exec in York, and they've both been completely passionate and behind this concept of open innovation. Again, if you're doing it in your own areas, you really need to get them to understand and accept and kind of buy into this idea, because if you don't have the buy-in from the top, then you're kind of stuffed before you even start. Okay, if the whole process, how am I doing time-wise? I need to talk really fast. Okay, I'm nearly there. I've only got 2 slides left. So, if the whole process is really open and free-flowing with a little framework, you can end up with complete anarchy. It did happen for a small period of time. We are working to perfect our procedure. We kind of went back to front on ours, but we are actually working on it. We're getting there. We're starting to get that process nailed now. And we're also creating a toolkit as we go and a kind of procedure book. You can formalise this stuff to some extent. It's not always completely open and free-flowing. There are sort of milestones and stage gates. And once we've got that pulled together, we'll be more than happy to share that with everyone who's interested. Communication is absolutely crucial at every stage. If you're dealing with multiple stakeholders all over the place, it's absolutely crucial you keep everyone in the loop. And again, that's something that we're working on. We never quite got that right at the beginning, but we're getting better at it now, slowly but surely. And finally, to instill responsive innovation, it can't be achieved by bolting a small project on the side of an existing organisation. It needs systemic embedding across the organisation, and it needs strong linking with business, academic and resident communities. And I've shoved this little thing in here. It basically shows you the GenIUS platform. It's quite a sort of, it's a kind of transparent and non-permanent edge to it. You've got all these different people feeding into it, and it needs to. The radical innovation team sits. It's Science City York and the council. It's sitting. It's supposed to sit in the council, but it also sits on the edge. This needs to come out. We need to be dealing with individual departments in the council. We need to be working across the council. We need to be encouraging collaboration across departments as well as with the outside world. And you need to actually embed it into the system of how people work. We're looking just now at workforce development, appraisal programs. How do you prescribe innovation as something that people can choose to do as part of their workforce development? How do we kind of instill and embed that kind of way of working and that more creative outlook in everyday life in the council, and not just have it as a stick on the side project? So that's what we're working on just now. And how do we make senior and mid-management feel braver and have more confidence to have that autonomy, you know, and the trust in their staff to run projects that they actually feel really passionate about. So that's something, again, that we're going to spend the next 2 years working with the City Council to try and achieve. So I'm now finished. I had to put this in because Kirsten, our CEO, hates this photograph. This was one that we created for Nesta programme, and it's meant to be Archimedes in a bath. Actually, in front of the, he's Greek, it's in front of the Roman baths, so it kind of messed up. But I put it in because Kirsten's got a fantastic mantra that she brings out most of the time, and that is proceed until apprehended. Be brave and proceed until apprehended. Be proactive and passionate, and maybe together, using the power of us all, we can make a better place for us to live and work and play. Thank you very much.